Hey everyone, this is Leah from Blue Whale Arts, and we've been getting a lot of questions on how we put together our gourd catio, or our gourd cage and the catio. So we call it a gourd catio because the cat loves it. The reason why we built the gourd cage was because we have a real problems with squirrels and chipmunks and mice coming to eat the gourds, but they don't only eat them, they take them. So we thought about how we could go about making a gourd cage, and initially we were going to do everything out of pressure treated lumber until COVID came and pressure treated lumber went skyrocketing cost wise. However, you know, there's always a silver lining. So I'm going to go through the supply list first. So if you want to grab a pen and paper to write down what we used if you wanted to try to replicate it, and then I'll go through our thought process on how we went about assembling it. So what we needed was, we ended up using a hoop frame or a portable garage frame someone had on the marketplace or Craigslist, and they had it for sale. Sometimes you can get them for free, sometimes they're a couple of $100, $50, a couple of $100. We ended up finding one and it worked out perfect. The size of the hoop frame that we found was 20 by 12. We used hardware cloth, and another name for hardware cloth is rat wire. So if I use rat wire because that's what we grew up knowing it as, it's interchangeable and they're both the same thing. We also used tons and tons of zip ties. We found that that was the best way to tie the hardware cloth onto the frame. I used 20 gauge wire to sew the seams. I used 2x4s to build the two ends. We used ground cover. We used ground cover anchors. They're like a U-shaped anchor to pound into the ground for the ground cover to hold it in. I used weather stripping on the doors, and then nails, screws, and hardware and hinges and things like that. So, and screws and nails we had abundance of to nail the wire on the ends. But let me go through and I'll show you where we used all these pieces. I'm going to turn this around. And here is the gourd. Let me just zoom out a little bit. So here is the front of it. And you can see that we use the 2x4s to make the doors. We also, we'll just start right there. We also use these metal L brackets to help with the doors. We had these type of hinges, they're bolt hinges that we had available. The handle on the door actually came from another door we had ordered for the house, and they used it to move it. We thought it was perfect recycling. And the weather stripping, we used weather stripping on this side of the door and on this side of the door when we built it, because there was a gap between them, and that just stops the gap because I was afraid a mouse would get in there, and hopefully they wouldn't. But so let's go with the hardware cloth. What we did is, after we assembled the garage frame, the hoop frame, we started the wire through the metal post. We put the first piece of wire there, and if I didn't say it, I'll repeat it again. We used 200 feet of wire on the cage. And it is difficult to work with, so you want to wear gloves because it's really hard on the hands. So when you can wear gloves, you want to wear it because it is definitely hard on the hands. But we ran the first piece up on the top and straddled it, so we centered it between, so each is split in half. And then we did both sides identically by we ran the 20-foot way with the wire because the wire wasn't wide enough to meet the ribs of the frame. So with that, we did 3 pieces down each side. It worked out. And we can see here, let me go down here. Here is a seam. And I ran the wire, after we zip tied in spots on each seam, we did it all the way down. I sewed with a running stitch all the way down each seam. So that way there's no way that a critter could get up inside between the seams, because we know how smart those darn squirrels can be. We also ran the wire so that it came down and past the frame, and I used the hardware cloth anchors, and I ran it all the way down. But not only do we have the wire on the outside to stop them from going in this way, if they decided they were going to try to dig under, we laid on the ground a piece of hardware cloth all the way around, so that it goes over, I think it goes over 24 inches all the way around. So that's how we did the hardware cloth. And then inside, we also put ground cover. So the ground cover is sitting on top of the hardware cloth that we ran. We also ran it up higher around the edges. You can see a little bit. So if someone tried to dig under, this hopefully will be a deterrent for them. So you can see the back wall, we did 2x4s and we just ran them. And then I will come outside here so that you can see when it came to attaching it, we just attached the wire to 2x4s. We did the same thing on both ends. We sealed over wherever there was overlaps. So that way there, it was very difficult for our smart little fur critters running around outside. The reason why we wanted to do something like this is we have the winter, the snow, the rain. That helps with the drying process of the gourds, and it actually helps with the skin and makes them much easier. This gourd is out drying here, and you can see that the outer skin, the epidermal layer there is actually, I can peel it off. This is a gourd that I had taken the seeds out, and it really is just about dried, and I could probably bring this in and wash it right up and it'll be ready to go. Let me see, I think I covered everything. If you have any questions, let me know. Hinges, you know, you use them as you normally would a door. And then, like I said, with the weather stripping, that just made it so it covered the gaps on both. But I hope that answers some of the questions that you might have with the how we assembled it and the supplies that we used. I think the hardware cloth is a good way to go, even though it is expensive. I think it's going to be worth it in the long run for my gourds, and the squirrel's not taking them. If you have any questions, go ahead and you can message me about it, and hopefully I can answer. Hope you have a happy gourding day.